Hello Foggy followers, apologies for the poor quality video, but I am on bed today. I tried to record this video yesterday afternoon, but I couldn't get my words right, so I'm trying again today. Yesterday I discovered a parliamentary question and it flags up the coding issue with MECFS. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that now, but like I say, I am feeling really poorly today, so apologies if I stumble over my words. Okay, so this is the question that I saw yesterday. So as you can see, it's on the UK Parliament Written Questions, Answers and Statements website. And it was a question asked by Ben Bradshaw MP, Labour, who said, to ask the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care how many people in the UK have been diagnosed with severe myalgic encephalomyelitis as defined in the NICE guidelines. And Helen Whately MP responded with, the information requested is not held centrally. So my main point to anyone watching this would be that information should be held centrally. But there are quite a few factors in why it's not. One is the lack of education on MECFS. We know that. I'm tackling that with Stripey Lightbulb, and there is other training available. But that's a very slow work in progress to train people up on how to diagnose MECFS and to make them aware of what the codes are, etc., etc. Anyone that doesn't know, when you are diagnosed with any illness, your GP is required to update your medical records with the code that denotes what they've just diagnosed you with. It's part of their duty of care to accurately keep your records up to date. And I include that in my human rights work. It's part of their legal requirement to make sure that your medical records are accurate. Anyway, I digress. In the UK, however, there is a huge issue with coding. There's probably issues in other countries, but I am in the UK and it's our coding issue that I'm aware of. Anyone that's been keeping up to date with my social media work for the past however many years will know that in 2020 or 2021, I had a conversation on Twitter that was a very long conversation about coding in the UK. And that conversation was between myself, an MECFS advocate, an MECFS support group, and a couple of people that had a working knowledge of using coding in the NHS in their working life. They wouldn't claim to be an accredited coder, but they have used coding in their working life. So it was a really long, very interesting conversation. And what I did was I asked their permission and I turned it into a Word document for my own personal use at some point in the future when I might be able to use that information, because it wasn't time critical. It was just kind of, oh, that would save me having to ask the question again in future. I'll just keep this record for my own personal use. So that's what I've done. And this parliamentary question has brought back all of that coding stuff. So I'm going to just share a few little snippets of stuff with you to explain the coding issue in the UK. So this is the question that I originally asked at the very start of the Twitter conversation. So GPs and coding. It's well known that the prevalence of MECFS in the UK is unclear because the codes used by GPs at point of diagnosis vary. How do we do a nationwide census after the pandemic? Should the MECFS community lobby MPs for GPs to all use the same code? As I've said, this led to a very long Twitter conversation, and I'm very grateful for those people that contributed and said, actually, our group has been working on that for a while. We keep hitting brick walls. Did you know this? Did you know that? It was very interesting. You know, thank you very much to everybody that contributed. One of the things that was shared with me was this. Now, bearing in mind, this was in 2020, 2021. I do not know if this has changed, but I'm assuming that it hasn't, because the eyes have been elsewhere, haven't they, during the pandemic? And this quote is on MEpedia, and you can see the link at the bottom. The RCGP describes MECFS as medically unexplained symptoms rather than a neurological illness, meaning the RCGP is at odds with the NHS and UK government position, which follows the World Health Organization classification system. So to be clear, not only do we have poor knowledge base, the chances of getting an accurate MECFS diagnosis are not great. Then when you are actually diagnosed with ME/CFS, they might put it down as medically unexplained, anxiety, some kind of mental health thing, FND. And then you've got the fact that the RCGP sees it as something entirely different to how the World Health Organization, the government, and the NHS see it. All of those things combined mean that the coding system that should be a central database in which they can literally say, this is the code for ME/CFS. Let's type that in. How many people have got that on their medical record? Blah, blah, blah. Ta-da! Pick a number out of thin air, 400,000. We know that a quarter have severe, very severe ME/CFS. So in which case, if it's 400,000 SNOMED ME/CFS diagnoses on the central database, then that's a rough way to work out how many people in the UK have severe, very severe ME/CFS. However, Helen Whately is saying that that data is not held centrally. Is she saying that because she knows that the RCGP do not recognise ME/CFS in the same way that the NHS and the government would like, and World Health Organization would like them to register ME/CFS? It's frustrating because I've got acquaintances that work in the Department of Health and Social Care, and numerous times, various advocacy campaigns, they say to me, that'd be really easy to answer that question. You literally just use the SNOMED. It's got all the data you need in there. But that system only works when the correct information is input into it. So Ben Bradbury, that's the answer to your Bradshaw, apologies. Ben Bradshaw, MP. If you want to know how many people have severe, very severe ME in the UK, there's a couple of things. Firstly, SNOMED has to be sorted out. Royal College of General Practitioners has to be told to see it as the same as the World Health Organization and as the government, as NICE, and as the Department of Health and Social Care would like them to see it and log it. You also have to officially confirm that half of long COVID meet the diagnostic criteria for ME/CFS, because at the moment that's not been done. So any official figures are not taking that into account. But you have to acknowledge that SNOMED is not fit for purpose at the moment because of all the factors I've already listed. It's a very complex situation. I have got this document if any MPs want me to share it with them. Most of it is anonymised, so it's just a case of saying, this is all the knowledge that we hold. Please sort it out. Thank you for listening. And I hope that wasn't too rambly, but my COVID is really messing with my brain today. Catch you later.